Hey guys, so changes! I wanted to come to you guys to talk a little bit about one of my favorite characters on children's television right now, which is Catra from She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. But I didn't just want to talk about the character of Catra, and I more wanted to focus about the narratives around abuse and redemption that circulate around the character of Catra that I find to be part of this, to use a term, problematic way that we take language of therapy, language of social justice, and apply it to a lot of these children's TV shows in ways that are not just erroneous, but because it's just the language so much from actual real life situations, it tends to create an environment, at least that I've seen, where instead of creating more empathy for characters that are dealing with trauma, it seems that people keep trying to say that addressing the trauma that a character has dealt with means that you're trying to make excuses for them. And I think that's very flawed, especially when we're talking about a show that is for, you know, young women and young folks that is dealing a lot with trauma and abuse and how all of those things manifest. One of the reasons why I've always really enjoyed both She-Ra and the character of Catra is I think that Catra is a great example of how a character can be very deeply traumatized and how those actions constantly and consistently impact their ability to make good or bad choices. And I think what I find very limiting about the way that Catra is discussed is that it tends to oversimplify what she went through as a way of saying, well, she has this, so therefore she shouldn't make these kind of decisions. And I think that's it's a very oversimplified conception of how people with emotional trauma and problems with creating attachments end up dealing with their situations. In my opinion, for the character of Catra, because of the emotional abuse that she suffered at the hands of Shadow Weaver, not only is she someone who very much seeks attention, is someone who has a lot of hurt and pain from that, she also learned ways of attachment that were unhealthy. So I believe that Catra has something that I call a scarcity economy. This is a term that I originally heard when I was reading the Ethical Slut. And basically it says that you are a person, in terms of when it comes to love and romance, that believes that love is finite, that you can run out of it, everything is based on your ability to perform, that people who love you it can go away very quickly, and there is no ability to really trust and believe that the people say that they love you actually do that. It really limits your ability to believe in the goodness of others. And throughout the series, we see Catra react to things in ways that indicate that despite people wanting to attach to her, she has real issues trusting that those feelings and those promises of friendship. And a lot of time when people are like, well, what about Adora? She was also under Shadow Weaver. And I think it is very clear in the show that Catra suffered a very specific kind of emotional and physical abuse from Shadow Weaver that Adora was not privy to. But I think what's most important about the Adora-Catra relationship is that Adora did not realize that the Horde was evil until two strangers told her that, and she immediately switched sides. And when Catra's like, yeah, the Horde is evil and Adora's stunned by this, it can be perceived that Catra is hurt because not only is Adora trying to leave and change everything, Adora only now realizes that the Horde is evil, even though she has seen her best friend, her, implied romantic partner, be emotionally and physically tormented for all of this time. And it is this moment, in my opinion, that makes, to me, that choice to switch to the rebellion and leave Catra behind, or more so, not even leave Catra behind, but Adora's inability to have understood the wickedness of the Horde from seeing Catra being abused, to me reads as also very traumatic for Catra, because it's kind of like if you grew up in an abusive situation with your siblings and like you're the one getting beat but your sibling isn't, and they don't realize until after that this is happening, and you're just sitting here like, all this stuff was happening and you just didn't see it. But all the scars are still gonna be there. Adora's leaving, and Adora's inability to have noticed or really wanted to escape with Catra all that time was very hurtful. And to then see Adora now have 2 new friends and a whole new friend group, that all feeds into the concept of scarcity economy if you're someone like Catra who already believes that love is finite. It's like, how can Adora care about me if she's out here doing this? And I think the show sets up these very complicated emotional systems, and then if you take all of that as the building block of Catra's personality and her ability to emotionally connect, you then attach that to her relationship with Scorpia. Scorpia, who I love, we all love, she's great. Scorpia is very much trying to penetrate through Catra's walls, but I think the thing that's often not really understood is that for someone who has developed and learned at a very early age that love is finite, who cannot believe that anyone can be trustworthy, you do not instantly meet someone who's like, I want to be your best friend. It's like, all right, cool, we gotta be best friends now. Like, Catra is hurt by Adora leaving, and Adora leaving and being her only confidant will make her not want to build more confidants. And the reality is, like, and this is not the Scorpio who I love, but someone being very overly pushy, someone being very overly like, I'll be here for you no matter what, when you yourself are not used to that kind of attention, when you do not see that as a consistent truth in your life, you cannot believe it, even if it comes from the most altruistic person. Scorpia has to do that, not Scorpia, Catra has to do that work for herself. She has to get to a place where she can accept and deal with the fact that she needs to unlearn those toxic behaviors. And as we see, every time she regresses, it is because she's being put face to face with things that have hurt her. Does that mean that she is, it's excused? No. But if we're gonna use language of trauma and call her an abuser in her friendship with Scorpia, a friendship, remind you, she did not ask for. And I find when people dismiss that aspect of Catra's character to be very weird to me. And I also find it weird when people compare her to Zuko, and it's like, Zuko and her are very different. Zuko is an interesting character because he does have one of the best redemption arcs. The thing people forget when they compare Zuko and Catra is that Zuko had a healthy foundation of love. That Zuko came into his life in a very high position of privilege. Like, Zuko had a loving mother. He had a loving uncle throughout all of his life. Yes, his father was a piece of shit and his sister was shady as hell, but Iroh was with him the entire time. No matter what, never gave up on him from start to finish. Like, and Iroh could have at any time left the Fire Nation to go, you know, because he was on the bad side, but he never left Zuko. He also has a love interest who sticks with him no matter what. And they have a foundation of that relationship from when they were children. And Zuko is not like an underling. He is the prince of the Fire Nation. He was going to be the Fire Lord if, you know, if he had stayed the course. Zuko was then traumatized and abused, and because he had a foundation of love, it also made him, you know, push back against certain horrific things. But Zuko was very much on the imperialist side and working with them the whole time. And even in his journey to become good, he doesn't even really make the complete turnover until like the ending part of the 3rd book. And that, even when that happens, he is forgiven relatively quickly because the show has to go on. He goes on like a special vacation episode with like all the characters, and he is forgiven. It was not a drawn out season where he has to make amends, and even the political amends that he would have to make as someone who was the Fire Lord, we don't even deal with that until after the series is over. So to me, this expectation that like Catra has to like go through like a whole season long redemption arc, I'm like, dude, that's what the text is here for. Like, Catra will probably end up changing by making a big sacrifice and realizing that like what I've done is wrong, I need to do something good, and that will just be that, you know. It's not gonna be, and then she's gonna have to like probably enter working with everybody, and they'll have to work out a new dynamic. But these are traumatized teens, and I feel like I can't emphasize this enough. We cannot say that a traumatized 17-year-old girl deserves the guillotine, deserves to be thrown out of society because of because she is acting out of trauma. Like, that's messed up. Like, I saw this with Steven Universe Future. People were like, he's annoying now. I'm like, oh, because he's traumatized and he's making choices because he's traumatized? There's no therapy here, girl. That like, you are literally trying to throw out a vulnerable person for like justifying her with like whoever she want to be with. Like, Catra becoming a good person will be for Catra's benefit, not for her to be like a proper romantic partner for Adora or Scorpia or whomever. Like, it has to be about Catra growing. But that growth is complicated. People who are traumatized do not become good overnight. I'm working on a longer video about colonization in like teen shows, and I find it very frustrating that when it comes to talking about the villains in colonization narratives and imperialism narratives, that everyone is always willing to like be like the Hordaks and the Catras. Those who are like bred into child soldierhood are like, you know, they're the ones that have to be taken down and do the most kowtowing. But like people like Adora and Scorpia, also colonizers, also imperialists, can just get away with it by being sweet. Like, whenever I hear they talk about Catra's redemption arc, I'm like, well, Scorpia was a force captain and also working for the Horde and also doing all these things, and she didn't have a redemption arc. She just was like sweet and kind, and she wasn't really that kind of person, and then she just dipped. Like, it wasn't like she had to like go through a whole emotional crises. So I don't know why there's this expectation that Catra, who we know is traumatized, who we know is abused, who was raised as a child soldier, who went through the loss of like many people and is in a bad emotional place and has bad tendencies because of it, why she's the one who has to be punished the hardest. I don't understand that, and I think that's because we talk about it just like abuse or da-da-da-da-da, but we always ignore restorative justice. I forgot to say one more thing. There is also a reason why we as a society decided that it was immoral to send teenagers to prison for life. The brain keeps developing until your mid-20s, and so if we in our modern day legal system understand that there is something inherently wrong about giving children punishments for crimes that they committed while they were, you know, underage, I think it's really important to keep that in mind when we're talking about what Catra's redemption should be. We know that children need different environments to heal from their trauma, to evolve from their crimes so they don't become, there's an R word for it, but I can't think of it. But so they do not commit the same crimes again. And so, again, restorative justice language while talking about blame game. Okay. I think I'm done. It's like, redemption is not just a moment. It is not just, I killed myself, Luke, so now I'm good again. It's, what do you do after? Are you working after? And to me, you know, Zuko choosing to disavow the Fire Nation and then go and, you know, work to defeat that institution was his redemption. That was how he that's how he redeemed himself, by destroying the very institution that he was once a part of. If that was okay for him, then that has to be okay for Catra too. I see some people putting just very unrealistically high standards. And the point of the show, and the point of a character like Catra, is to teach young people who may be watching the show that if you are someone who has been through emotional trauma and you are trying to learn how to undo that, even though you've made mistakes, even though you didn't always do the right thing, the people who really care about you will respond to you if you do the work. And this is what happens when you focus too much on shipping, because I tell you this, and I say this as someone who ships Adora and Catra ride or die. This is a Scorpio perfumer household personally. We do not get better for relationships. You know, like, this is not Silver Linings Playbook. You know, like, yes, friendship helps you get through things, but if the goal for people is for like Catra to be better so that we can justify relationships that we ship that are fiction, no. Stop holding emotionally traumatized cartoon teenagers to ridiculously high standards of mental health, because especially when there's no therapies around, like there's no therapists anywhere. If Catra was always being pat on the back for what she was doing, I totally get it, but she hasn't been. She has lost the most important people to her. She has completely effed herself in the D. You know, I'm just like, I don't see how you think that she's being rewarded for this. And for people to forgive her is not a reward, it's their choice, and there are people who wanted her to be that way anyway. It's not these are randos. Like, Adora loves Catra, Scorpia loves Catra. They want her to be a better person. If she wants to be a better person, they're gonna be the first ones to root for her. So, but I will say this as well, considering that the last time we had a female character that was as emotionally, you know, interesting as Catra, they turned her into a, you know, let her have a psychotic break at the 11th hour and then made her a terrible representation of mental health. You know, especially in the extended series that's technically canon, even though I don't want Catra to be punished for the rest of her life. I think that she has been punished her entire life and it did not make her a good person. And I think that's the point. Like, when you talk about people who believe in prison abolishment, it's because of this. You don't make someone into a better person by constantly shitting on them. It's by giving them chances, by giving them the room to make mistakes and grow. And, you know, we can use all this language that's supposed to be about social justice when it comes to identifying bad behavior. We should also use that same social justice language in terms of how we talk about redemption and getting over it. If you like this video and you enjoyed this, please let me know down below. Like, thumbs up, subscribe. I guess that bell, you should like hit on it because apparently like sometimes you don't get notifications for things. But anyway, I'll see you guys soon and stay indoors.